Okay.
I'll check YouTube.
WND Live is on the air. Today we are talking about the Democrats. Are they going to replace Joe Biden as their presidential nominee? Many are leaning towards it being Kamala Harris. Also, it's recently been revealed that transgender killer at the Covington School has had mental disorders. And Hezbollah is increasing their attacks on northern Israel. Welcome, everybody. My name is Matt Edwards. This is WND Live. We are those are the stories we're going to cover today, and it is going to be rapid fire, as they say, because we're going to get through these things. We got a lot of great clips to share with you and get you up on your way into the weekend. Let's bring in producer Josh Turnbow, Elizabeth Farah, co-founder of WND. And hello, folks. Welcome. Happy Independence Day to you all.
Thank you. Hey, everybody.
Happy Independence Day to you, too.
Great. You know, the fallout from the debate last week is incredible as we continue onward. So many names have been popped up here, but of course the obvious one, if you're going to replace the president, would be to go to the vice president. But the problem here is our vice president is Kamala Harris, and she comes with a lot of baggage, and most of it, all of it, to her doing. As an example, I want to start off with a great clip with the coconut clip. Can we see that one real quick?
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
Elizabeth, what do you think of Kamala Harris and her coconut trees?
Well, I mean, everybody knows it's not news that Kamala is not, or Kamala, whatever, is not popular. And it's so obvious why. She seems to be a ditz. She seems phony. She loves school buses. She's just weird. She's weird. She's not a serious person. She's not, I've never heard a serious, important statement from her. She was also charged as the czarina, I call it, of the southern border. And so if she came into the, if she was anointed as the replacement for Biden, she would come with all of Biden's baggage, plus the focus on the border. I would assume would be a major focus by former President Trump and candidate Trump, and I think that would destroy her. Did you see the video of her pretending to have like a black accent and talking like, did you see that? And I wish I had suggested we had that clip where she's talking to an actress, and I can't remember the actress's name. She's very famous. And she starts saying things like, they don't, I can't fake the
Did
accent.
she say we out here on these
don't
streets,
like
I
us.
think.
They don't like us, and she says, out on the street, and it was so affected. And who came up with this idea? Was it Kamala, because it kind of goes right in line with how silly and vacuous and phony she is.
Yes.
And
Well, I mean,
yeah.
yeah,
Go
no,
ahead.
and that's a great point because I mean, a lot of politicians get caught doing that, right? We've seen AOC Cortez, right? AOC does it. Hillary Clinton has done it famously in some of her
should have brought
speeches
those
too.
clips. Hillary Clinton's clip is so cringe, and Kamala is cringe from beginning to end. There's nothing that's
100%.
not cringe about
and now Elizabeth, though, you said sometimes she doesn't say anything that's ever serious, and I would beg to differ. We have a nice compilation clip of her saying one of the more important things in life. Do we have that clip? Can we watch some of these bold, these just really serious statements?
Imagine what can clip one and be unburdened by what has been. You know
What can be unburdened by what has been?
What can be unburdened by what has been?
What can be unburdened by what has been? What can be unburdened by what has been?
What we can see, what we believe can be unburdened by what has been.
what can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been? What can be unburdened by what has been?
What can be unburdened by what has been.
Who we can be
It's deep. It's really deep.
unburdened by who we have been.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
Where we can be unburdened by where we have been and unburdened by where we are right now.
What can be
That's not even her
unburdened by
talking.
what has been.
What
Right.
can be
Josh, when you
unburdened
think
by
about
what
the
has been.
statement,
What can
Yeah.
be
What can be.
unburdened by
Yeah.
what has been.
by
She actually looks
unburdened by
very
what?
pretty there, though.
Yeah, she did, right?
Love the look.
But Josh, I mean, let's unpack that statement. What does it really truly mean to be unburdened
I want to hear
by
from
what
you
has
guys.
been?
What do you think it means?
There's this meme of this lady like looking confused and math overlaid like giant formulas. No one can figure out what this means because it means nothing. And that's why it's such a good
It's nothing.
It's such a good platitude.
My favorite means nothing statement came from a writer who, another lunatic, and he said, God is one hand clapping. He was a big author about, 20 years ago. And he supposedly was talking directly to God, and he wrote this all down. And he was really big. Conversations with God. Do you remember that guy? Conversations.
Yeah.
He wrote 3 books. And the thing about these kinds of statements is, firstly, they do mean nothing, but they're so discordant with reality that a lot of us at first will say, that must have been deep, but I'm just not able to understand it.
Yeah.
There's an inclination of all of us to not hear nonsense statements from supposedly intelligent people in leadership positions, theologians, politicians, presidents, whatever, and think that they should be giving us some wisdom. So yeah, God is one hand clapping is Kamala Harris's MO. Yeah.
Right. Well, then let's bring up this. There's an article over at WND. New poll claims Trump beats all potential Biden replacements except one. So when they show this poll, they have Trump beating the vice president Harris, but that one person that apparently has a double-digit lead over Trump in this new Reuters Ipsos poll is Michelle Obama, 50% to 39%. I mean, is this? I haven't dove into the numbers of who's being polled here, but is Michelle Obama really at 50% over Trump?
Well, I don't know. There's several interesting things about this because obviously Michelle has more stuff, more cred behind her than Kamala Harris. And everybody else that they asked about, let me just look here. So Kentucky Governor Bashar, 4%, Gretchen Whitmer, Trump leads, by 5%, Newsom by 3%, Pritzker, Illinois governor, by 6%. All of these are losers, right? Just in every realm. But Michelle Obama has 11-point lead over former President Trump or candidate Trump. So I think, firstly, one poll does not make a reality, and that's just not necessarily going to hold. It's just one random poll. It is Reuters, but I think that Michelle Obama is a possibility because they want to pull a big surprise. They know everybody else is losers. They don't have a deep bench, as some people call it. I think that they have nobody. And so Michelle Obama may be one of these people that, as someone said, they bring them out late and there's a honeymoon stage, and it's so discordant and jarring to the voters that almost something new and shocking, people may just jump on that bandwagon. I don't know the process, though, because I don't think anybody does. I've been watching everybody make comments about the fact that Kamala Harris is the only one who can touch the many, many millions of dollars that have been donated to Biden Harris. So Obama would have none of that. And does it have to happen at the convention? Is that required that it happens at the convention? If they don't make a change at the convention, then later they could declare him unfit by, according to the 25th Amendment, really, really late. And then Michelle could just jump in and start contesting. There's so many theories out there. But I think the later they wait, if they can wait, I think the later they wait, the better for them.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point, because when you ask the question if there is even a process, we have a graphic to display what the process normally should be, and it's the delegates, the number of delegates. So look at this map. This map here shows all of the states that Biden won during the Democrat primary season of this year. The two states in black, and there's the count number there. The two states in black, Florida and I think it's Delaware. Is that Delaware up there? Those states, they canceled their primary because they had no one else on the ballot except Biden. So
worry.
Yeah, so he got all 50 states. He's got 3,894 delegate committed to him. And so that's the process. So if the Democrats think, we had such a debate performance and they have this knee-jerk reaction, aren't they disenfranchising all of those voters across the country who clearly, I mean, we're talking 81 million at least, right? 81 million.
Democracy's on the ballot. So obviously they would never, ever attempt to thwart the will of the delegates. And I would say this, that when you choose your vice president, not based on the value of their thinking, their leadership skills, but instead based it upon race and gender, which is the definition of, a process that a woke mentality would give you. It's got to be a woman. It's got to be, or a transgender. It's got to be a woman, and it's got to be a minority race, if you want to call it that. And if that is the criteria, then the delegates that voted for Biden are expecting that Kamala is the number two. When you vote for the president, you're also voting for the vice president to take office should that president be unable to finish their term. Right. So everybody knows that. I mean, this is basic kindergarten civics. And so they're all waiting for that. And everybody, by the way, I think when you choose the second in command, you're saying, I'm willing for that person to be the president of the United States. And often they'll choose somebody that's going to excite the electorate, not just because they have a great state with many electoral votes, but because it'll excite the electorate. And then now you splash cold water and you say, sorry, the vice president, second in line to the president, who is a Black woman, is not qualified, is just not good enough for us. What's going to happen at the convention?
I mean, that's going to be the exciting part. What's really interesting too, Elizabeth, you alluded to it, is the elites here. They want to be able to control all of this, and so one of those folks at the top of the sort of left leaning Democrat machine is Ari Emanuel, who is the brother of Rahm Emanuel. Yeah, that's right. Rahm Emanuel, who
always throw me off.
who was Obama's chief of staff during his first term. But Ari Emanuel was on stage talking about what the Democrats have to do after the horrible performance from Biden. So let's watch that clip.
All right, Democrats are jumping out of the window. What are you thinking?
Well, I'm pissed off at the founding fathers. They had the start date of 35. They just didn't give us the end date. The lifeblood to a campaign in politics, the lifeblood is money. And maybe the only way this gets, with smart lawyers looking at it, is if the money starts drying up. And I'm assuming all of you've gotten a lot of calls. I've gotten a lot of calls. We've all sat there. He gave us a bunch of malarkey. And I'm really pissed. Right. And we all should be really pissed.
Right. And what does this do to Jeffrey Katzenberg's fundraising?
Well, Jeffrey, you're going to know in the next couple, you're going to see polling, you're going to see in the next couple of weeks if the money comes in. I talked to a bunch of big donors, and they're moving all their money to Congress and the Senate. I cannot believe we're in this situation.
Well, as one of the great disruptors in your career, do we have to sit by and sleepwalk?
It's a legal issue now.
Yeah.
You're not in, I'm going to resign, unless the lawyers tell you something else, and maybe there's some wiggle room. I haven't seen it, and I'm not a lawyer, but we're in city.
Okay, I'm glad we got to that.
Yeah, Josh, what's your take on what Mr. Emanuel said there?
So, if anybody doesn't know, Ari Emanuel is just like a legend in Hollywood. They even made him a character as Ari, playing him. An actor played him in the HBO series Entourage. He is the establishment. He mentioned Jeffrey Katzenberg, but he is the establishment in Hollywood. Okay, so also that means that just a couple of weeks ago, he was at the Hollywood fundraiser with Biden and Obama. He would have seen him there. It raised $28 million for Biden that night. So are we to believe that somehow Mr. Emanuel just didn't notice that Biden was completely gone even then? There was even a scene where it looked like they were trying to escort him off the stage. So this is a very weird play where he looks genuinely concerned that, no, we're in trouble. It's a legal issue now. Really, what's funny about that is like the Democrats don't care anything about legal issues. They just kind of force their will. He seems paranoid and like he doesn't know what to do. But that just seems so difficult to believe, knowing how sophisticated the Dem machine is.
Yeah, Josh, I think you're right. But one of the things to also take note is like these people live in a bubble, right? And so maybe it was the debate showed that the emperor has no clothes, truly. And the phones started ringing. The texts started coming into these folks, and they're like, "You said everything was going to be fine. Like this is not going to be fine." And now the elite folks are panicking. Elizabeth, what is your take on what Emanuel said there? And is this really a bunch of malarkey, as he said, that Biden sold everybody?
I was trying to count the different things that Biden said, and I wanted, and then there was only one malarkey though. The stuff I started losing count. Anyway, I find there is so much lying going on that at some point it defies analysis. And I agree completely with Josh. It seems very unlikely that a man with the sophistication and the connections and raises $28 million in a fundraiser for Biden has not seen any indication. If he were lied to after, if he were lied to, or if Biden, I don't know how he could have misunderstood. We know that the press, who every day a new revelation comes out as to why the press didn't report this. And today on WND, one of them is because hey, the conservatives or the MAGA Republicans were reporting it, so why should we? And before that, it was because we're afraid of the Democrats. We're afraid of the Twitterverse. Twitterverse. We're afraid of the Biden White House. We didn't know. There's so many excuses, but they're all lies and rationalizations.
Yeah.
And so, yes, the big fundraisers for or donors to Biden are saying, we're going to stop giving any money until it's official that he's out of this race. And yes, they're beep, 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 really in bad shape. And I guess they've been hoisted on their own petard. And they are, and I'm glad Trump is not out there trumpeting all of his comments about this and allowing them to stew and under the bright lights of reality. And so I don't know. What can you say? They're liars or they're dupes?
I think I think they're just unburdened by what has been. And so
Matt, you found a place to put that.
We're gonna try. We're gonna try. Yeah.
Gosh.
Well. Okay. So maybe we should give the final word to Vivek. We have this clip from Vivek Ramaswamy, who I guess we still don't know who Trump's going to choose as VP. I guess he might be still an option, perhaps. But we have this clip from Vivek Ramaswamy here. Let's play that.
Is it actually possible at this point, now in the month of July, this is the month of the Republican convention, the Democratic convention is literally next month, is it actually feasible and possible for the Democrat Party to move Biden to one side, or has that ship effectively sailed?
Vivek, first, thanks for having me. It is incredibly simple at this stage of the game to replace Biden as the Democratic nominee for president. Let me say, you're brave, frankly, for even having this conversation, for going where many in conservative circles are simply refusing to go. They're engaging in this wishful thinking where they actually believe that a vegetable must be the Democratic nominee for president. That's simply not the case. There are many ways along the path by which Biden can be swapped out as the nominee.
So like what? How exactly would they do it?
Sure. So where people get it wrong is assuming that the Democrats have a nominee at this point. Where we are in the process is that the primaries have merely elected delegates who will go to the convention and choose the nominee. So here are the ways that this could actually happen. First off, Biden may never make it to the convention in the first place. There could be a different nominee put forward. And so much of the narrative has been, well, all of these delegates that came out of the primary process are pledged, must vote for Biden as the Democratic nominee. Under the Democrats' own rules, that's not the case. In fact, the rules, and I'm reading right here, delegates to the National Convention pledged to a presidential candidate shall in all good conscience reflect the sentiments of those who elected them. Now, that's very different than the way the RNC rules read, which say that a delegate is bound to the candidate who sent them there on the first ballot. So under the DNC's own rules, delegates don't even have to vote for Biden.
Well, there's the path forward, I guess. What we're looking at here is once we get to the convention, the delegates, and this happens in the Republican rules too. Your first ballot is who you were chosen to go vote for. But if Biden's not there, then the delegates are kind of free to to move on. So, like you said, Elizabeth, it's going to be a very interesting convention to see how this plays out. And we have a date on that. That'll be in August, right? Or is it later in July? I know the Republican is in a couple of weeks, but
it's in August.
It's in August. I forget. I can't wait, because when I think of all the jihadis, Hamas supporters, and Marxists the woke Marxism, Marxist crowd. When I think of all of that, it just reminds me of the convention. What was it, 68, where there were riots? Not that I want anybody to be hurt. Let me just say, for the record, I'm not looking for anybody to be hurt, but I think that the anarchic chaos of the Democratic Party or Democrat Party, it'll be good to have that reflected if it is during that convention, because I think that people should see always over and over again who these people really are, the party, and what they represent. And I think it's psychotic. So I'd like to see that. I'd like to see that. It'll be fun too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Matt, all right. Well,
I feel like.
Oh, go ahead.
I feel like there's something going on too. So like Vivek had the gentleman on to do analysis. Ari Emanuel can go see that analysis, but you notice how he covers it and he says it's a legal issue. What he doesn't want to say out loud is we'll just work it out in the back room, because that's embarrassing, right? That Dems have never really been able to hide that. They did that to Bernie, right? So that's just my thought. I think they know what they're going to do.
Point.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true.
A really, really important point that the Democrats do not care. You know, when he starts off, I'm mad at the founding fathers. This just blew my mind hearing that quote the first time. I'm mad at the founding fathers. Well, you probably are for much more than the fact that they said they didn't put an upper age limit for candidates. Because I don't think that most Democrats really support the Constitution as it stands today. Number one, I would say, why didn't you know when you saw, or you should have seen, 1,000 clips of Biden on the campaign trail when he was occasionally being recorded saying bizarre things, incapable of speaking. And this is back in 2020. So they did not have to put this candidate forward. And I think that putting an upper end to it is just an upper end for the age is really just an excuse. Again, it's a bait and switch. It's a red herring, and it's a lie at the base of it.
Yeah.
It's very annoying.
Folks, thanks for tuning in here today. We want to make sure to get your comments up on the screen. So if you're watching across YouTube, Facebook, and Josh, are we streaming on Rumble now? Did we make the leap?
That's right. We're on Rumble right now. And you know, while we love you watching on Facebook and YouTube, if you can and you like Rumble, go over there and watch, because we want to build that audience. Obviously we've been railing about censorship, but it's real. And you know, before we even did this episode, we had to go to YouTube and check the guidelines to see what kind of words we can say, especially as they relate to our next story. How about that for a segue, Matt?
I was going to say you're segueing perfectly.
Can I just say something? You didn't share the list with me, so I may be the one that blows this. Beat me out. You
That's
have like a button you can beat me if I.
No, I think we're going to be good. I think we're going to be good here, because I want to challenge that narrative that what we can and can't say that YouTube says so. But yes, the next report, and we teased it at the top here, of course, which was that this report came out that the deceased shooter, and let me just read from the article over at WND.com. Published there by the staff. A Covenant killer diagnosed with 5 mental health disorders. It says here that the now deceased shooter who killed 3 children and 3 adults at Nashville's Covenant School a year ago had been diagnosed with 5 mental health disorders, according to a new report from the Tennessee Star. The report claims that's what her parents, Ronald and Norma Hale, told Metro Nashville police in 2023 during an interview. The parents, and with their lawyer, provided the list of mental disorders after MNPD investigators questioned whether Hale was formally diagnosed with autism. The other disorders that were listed on the report were an anxiety disorder, social phobia, dysthymia disorder, major depressive disorder, and an autism spectrum disorder. These diagnoses came in 2011 when she was in high school. 28 years old is how old she was when she committed this horrible act. And then later in the article, it lists that the police documents reveal that Hale was a 22-year mental health patient prior to that March 2023 attack. You guys, I mean, people have been saying this for years. We have a mental health crisis in this country. And for a lot of folks, it seems like the left and everybody has decided to take one of the major, huge issues in the mental health world and rubber stamped it with approval and now just call it transgenderism. And then they wave a pink and blue flag.
Yeah, that was what really hit me in reading this story, is that there was no diagnosis of anything having to do with her gender dysphoria or transgenderism. I don't know what if that was even addressed in her counseling, if you will. I don't know what kind of treatments she was receiving, but it wasn't too long ago that a girl that dressed like a man intending to look like a man, not just wearing some cute little tux in a night out, feminine type of a tux or something, but that wanted to appear to be of the other gender. And there are just two, or when there were just two in those days, the halcyon days of yore, that they were considered mental illnesses or disorders that required treatment. And so I don't know which layer of the onion the transgenderism or gender dysphoria comes in. Is that before depression or after depression? And some of those things I didn't even know what they were. The third one in, I didn't even know the name of it. I mean, what it is. But maybe if the American Psychiatric Association did not decide to take virtually all mental illnesses related to gender off of the list of mental illnesses so that she could receive a treatment for what I consider still to be a mental illness, maybe that would have arrested some of the others. We don't know, because we're not there in the room. We don't have all the reports in front of us. I don't know that we'll ever know. But the fact that that's not on the list, I find troubling.
Yeah. And the fact that we seem to just be enabling these disorders, it reminds me of this whole, Madison Avenue marketing campaign for all these health products and action fitness products where they have, what would typically be seen as unfit models in these outfits. We're just sort of enabling a lifestyle that leads to harm. And certainly by enabling folks with mental disorders, it's leading to disasters like this within their own lives, and of course with the community that they serve in. Josh, as someone who has young children and going through this, I mean, what's the responsibility here for parents when we can identify, when we see our children playing with other kids or noticing this sort of this like, how do we go about identifying, and I know I'm getting into a deep territory here, but what's your take on that as a parent with the young kids?
Well, I mean, there seems to be a divide between the way people parent. There's been a growing divide for years, but as an example, if she was in counseling for 22 years and she was 28 years old, so at 6 years old, her parents had her in counseling, and there seems to be a growing idea now, and there is some clinical research that shows us that even putting your kids in therapy instead of stabilizing them mentally can actually destabilize them. And like, I'm looking at her disorders here. One of them is dysthymia. You know what that is? It's depression. So like 3 of them are depression. If you're depressed for 2 years straight, this is dysthymia. But basically, this was a super depressed person who, wrote about an imaginary penis. I'm not really sure what that is. But she was completely in her own head until she couldn't be there anymore, and then she went crazy and decided that the solution was to massacre kids.
Yeah, it's horrific.
Well, I would say though that speaking about children, that this is a very real thing. Any child, even a teenager on the internet, is a target. And, a huge choir of homosexual men a couple of years ago came out with the song "We're Coming After Your Children." And that was a massive sensation on, I don't know if it was TikTok or I think it was YouTube actually. And the whole song is, "We are coming after your children." And the strategy was, we normalize the least radical. We just say we want, to be left alone. And the least radical of the sexual deviances. And then we just keep moving forward until so much is normalized that when you look at a parade in San Francisco, men are walking around fully naked, not one, not two. Men are walking around fully naked with erect in front of children, and in San Francisco that is now legal, because if they're not doing it in order to have some kind of sexual pleasure, then it's not illegal. Drag Queen Story Hour, why that is illegal, I mean legal anywhere. I know we can't go down this road in this segment, but why is that legal? I think that's child abuse, and it's sexualization of children. I think the parents should be charged with child abuse, and I think that the drag queens should be put in prison. That's just my opinion. But I think we should be having a conversation on why this has just been allowed to continue without essentially any serious conversation of banning it. Astonishes me. And so if you look at if a child goes onto the internet, they will be targeted in many, many different areas, and they are actually evangelized. I've seen it. I've actually seen it. And so this girl, whatever the chicken or the egg was, she was doomed because society no longer uplifts a godly morality and the willingness to call something a mental illness or disturbance and then treat it aggressively. It's a very sad story for everyone involved.
It is, and we have to continue to just pray for our kids and pray for those who suffer from these mental illnesses. Okay, well, let's get on to our final story here that we have over at WND Live. Make sure you guys are, of course, have bookmarked that site, but follow on X, on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, if you're already there. As Josh keeps warning us, censorship is coming. So we want to make sure you guys are following on X and over on Rumble now. It's fantastic that we are on Rumble. But this final story here about Hezbollah launching a massive rocket barrage on Israel's north. Israel's north came under heavy bombardment as Iranian Shiite proxy group Hezbollah responded to the IDF's killing yesterday of one of its senior commanders. And we have some footage of this horrific fires that erupted overnight from these rocket blasts. I believe our producer has found that footage. So let's take a look at that. Is that something that's... Yeah,
says that one soldier was killed in this.
Yeah, good. Elizabeth, what are we hearing over there in northern Israel?
Well, firstly, this is Hezbollah launched its first attack on October 8th, the day after the October 7th attempt at genocide. I don't know that there's been a day that one rocket or some other aggression has not occurred. I haven't counted, but okay, maybe they took a holiday for one day, but there's been over 5,000 rockets shot at northern Israel, in Golan, and down all the way to the Galilee where our Lord walked. And so 100,000 Israelis have been evacuated from their homes and businesses. We mentioned this last week or in one of our last shows. And they are starting wildfires across. We didn't even get a really good clip in yet about the wildfires. So just imagine this small, tiny, little country having the north. There you go. Perfect picture of it. Having this spread across the north. And this is where a lot of agriculture is, but a lot of tourism. A lot of Israelis go there to vacation with their children for their family vacations. But how many times have you been to Galilee? Are we going to go the next time and see it a burned wasteland? Of course, tourism, you might say, is not that important in the grand scheme of things. But one of the tactics or strategies of the PLO and these various other jihadi organizations that want to destroy Israel is to, and Yasser Arafat laid this out very specifically. We want to make it impossible for Israel to continue. In other words, they expend so much money, their businesses begin to fail, their economy crumbles, tourism ends. That is the strategy, to make it impossible, and everything works to that end. They never thought that they would probably go and actually get to exterminate every last Jew in Israel, but make it implode from within. And what's going to happen is this: Israel has given them, well, actually, I thought the date had passed where they gave them an ultimatum to end it, or else they're going to go in and take troops in to southern Lebanon and push them back to the Litani River, where UN, that's the line of demarcation, the Litani River. I don't know how many miles or kilometers it is from the northern border of Israel, and that they would push Hezbollah out of there. And that would probably entail the complete destruction of everything south of the Litani River. This doesn't have to happen, but what will happen is when they move, suddenly the international community, the UN, all of these so-called, and they are just so-called humanitarian organizations, and nations in Europe, and of course, Russia and China, they'll be shocked and appalled. Why is Israel doing this? Because I have not seen, but I don't even see anybody other than a handful of news organizations. Obviously, in Israel, it's every day on the news, but in America, highlight this. And what they don't know is over 5,000 rockets. There are dead people. 100,000 Israelis have left their homes and businesses, and a huge proportion of Israel is unlivable since October 7th. And it's all going to be just a big surprise. And then they'll start the onslaught against this, this aggression and this expanding of the war against Israel, who has been, okay, how patient do you think, and I'll just throw this back at you, I'll end with this. How patient do you think the United States of America would be if 5,000 missiles were coming from Cuba or Mexico or Canada? Would we wait 8 months before invading those states?
No. No.
Okay, there we go.
There's the longest and the shortest answer.
It'd be exactly. Carpet bombed in 5 seconds.
Yeah. Well, it also makes one realize that, just a few years ago, we spent about 4 years with relative peace in the region. And I wonder why that was. I'm just trying to wonder why that was. there was different world leadership going on, right, guys? I mean,
and there was in Jerusalem, before the embassy was moved to Jerusalem, and before the President Trump had declared that Jerusalem is the acknowledged capital of Israel. There's never been a capital, the people of Israel, the children of Israel. Well, I guess that's not really true, but we won't talk about Shiloh and all that. That's going back a little bit too far. Anyway, before that, the intelligence services and the State Department, it's the State Department, it's like a cabal in the State Department, came and said that there would be 100 embassies around the world closed down. And I think maybe something like an estimate of 5,000, I could be wrong about this, but it was something like 5,000 people would die because of it. And none of this happened, of course. It was just, it was a blip, the radar screen, not even a blip. And when you've got strength in the Oval Office, when America, who has the moral strength, the moral authority, if you will, to stand for righteousness and truth and justice, and the world listens. By the way, the world listens to us because they do know. Even the despots know when we're standing for truth and justice. Even communist Chinese men and Russian oligarchs and all the rest of this, the Communist Chinese Party, they all know that we're standing for truth and justice. It's just not, we're not standing for the CCP and Vladimir Putin, and we're not standing for Hezbollah, and we're not standing for Iran. When we stand firm and strong, then the world will be a peaceful place.
Yeah.
And we have lost that.
Yeah.
Or a much more peaceful place. It's impossible to control everything, of course.
Hey, Josh, we have got reporters all over the place, not just across the country, but across the world. And who's there in Israel?
Yeah, one of our contributors is Eliyahu Berkowitz. He's a great writer. He's been reporting for years, but he lives in the southern Golan. So he himself has seen these rockets come in, and it's pretty constant. So even his own home is essentially a bunker. So it looks like a home, but he knows whenever the rockets fall, everybody meets in the living room because that's their reality. It's pretty bizarre. And we actually have a clip here that he sent us from some of the fires that were outside of his town, which it's kind of like strange because I don't think any of us in the United States would put up with this for a minute if our enemies actually did this.
This is the view. As I said, I live in the southern Golan. That's looking towards the city of Tzfat and the cities of Rosh Pina and Chatzor. If the trees were not in the way, you would be able to see the Galilee, the Kinneret right there. I'm very close to the Kinneret. Those fires, hopefully they're outside of the city, though they look very, very close.
Yeah, so good footage from Eliyahu, and part of me hopes that he doesn't have better footage because he actually lives there. And
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
that's a very good point.
Yeah, and it reminds me, last night we had fireworks, last night, of course, and if you live in a suburban area or anywhere near other folks, you're going to hear the booms all night long. And at one point I turned to my wife and said, if we lived anywhere else in the world, these booms would actually be real. But only in America can you live through a night of booms and not have to suffer what those folks are suffering in places like northern Israel or along the border of a lot of these places. So, our prayers go out to of course Israel and folks that are dealing with this stuff. It's truly horrendous. It's
going to be very, very bad. This war, when it moves full on, I consider it to have been a war declared by Hezbollah on October 8th. Obviously, it was in Israel's best interest to sort of ignore it I mean, they obviously had to respond, and they've been responding aggressively, but it's been very restrained. And to not talk about it in the same way as Gaza for a lot of strategic reasons. But when that war starts, which I believe is inevitable, I don't believe that there's any chance that there won't be a full-on engagement between Hezbollah. The Houthis will be engaged. Iran is promising to attack directly Syria. In Iraq, they will be attacking. And there are a lot of people in Israel, if they confide, when they confide in you, that say, look, you know, I will probably, or may very well be one of the dead, because there will be tens and tens of thousands. Russia is now saying, and I know we don't have this story on our agenda, but Russia is now saying that they're going to be arming the Houthis. And, you know, what universe is any of this okay in? And the people of Israel are literally planning that tens of thousands of their brethren will be dead. And when you look at the infrastructure that Hezbollah will target, water, nuclear, gas lines, other kinds of fuel lines, the desalinization plants, their technology is extraordinary in Israel, and they have spent billions and billions of dollars building the most sophisticated country perhaps in the world when it comes to infrastructure. Their water system alone is like the fourth wonder or the eighth wonder of the world. Not the fourth, eighth. Anyway, Hezbollah can reach every one of these things. They have sophisticated missiles, ballistic missiles, and they have 150,000 of them. Well, 145, if obviously that's not an exact number anyway, but they've actually sent over 5,000. That's not including drones. That's not including other munitions. And they actually are talking about there is, you know, the possibility of a ground invasion by Hezbollah. Their intention is to commit another October 7th and take hundreds of hostages. So, or many more hundreds of hostages. Yeah, it's a really, really bad situation, and we should be talking about it and doing more stories upon it. We do have a Jerusalem bureau up and running in Israel now. I'm glad you brought that up, Matt, in southern Golan, the Golan Heights, and then also Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, with our other reporter, David Brummer. And yeah, so we're getting good coverage now from Israel, and we're very excited about that.
Excellent. Very good. Very good. All right, folks. Well, be sure to follow that coverage at WND.com. And Josh, let's make sure people are connected. Where can people go to find out the latest stories, to share the content, and to make sure they stay engaged? Because we need to keep these conversations going, and we need to keep people informed, because the legacy media is not your friend.
Yeah, this is my pitch every show, guys. Would love you to like, subscribe, and follow. And that's going to be, we want you to go over to our X channel. And on this specific stream, we went to Rumble Live. We're going to go to Rumble Live every time we do the stream. We'd love you to follow us over there. You know, like we noticed that our followers on YouTube, they're a little less, but I think that's, you know, YouTube has their own way of doing that. So, of course, if you follow us on Facebook, we love that. But if everybody could go over, subscribe to Rumble, that would be great. That'll help us to keep the news coming.
Excellent. All right, folks. Well, thank you again. Have a fantastic weekend. Elizabeth, Josh, the same to you as well. And we will be back here next week with more news on WND Live.
End of quote.